es Mark Chesnut, CEO de Latin Flyer. Un aplauso, por favor.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días. Yo me llamo Mark Chesnut y soy de Nueva York, vivo en Nueva York. Voy a hacer mi presentación en inglés, pero después cualquier pregunta podemos tener conversaciones en español o lo que ustedes quieran. Pues el tema de hoy, en inglés, the theme for today is how to think like a journalist and master the media and boost your business. So the first question may be, why should you care how journalists think and how journalists act? Can I get this clicker to work? There we are. This is me on a bad day, cuando estoy de muy mal humor. So why should you care about journalists? Because if you see sometimes in movies or television, journalists are depicted as troublemakers. We write about things that you don't want us to write about. We give bad publicity and things like that. And that may sometimes be the case, but there's also a lot of good things that we can do for your business or for your destination or organization. We can help to create awareness about your services and your products. We can help cement your reputation with your peers and with your employees even. So what we're going to do today is to take a quick overview of what media and journalists look for, and then we're going to see how some of those things can actually be used by you without even my help, without a journalist's help, so that you can build your own business more effectively and get your word out to the audiences that you want to reach. So let's start with taking a quick look at what is the difference between trade, consumer, media, and also bloggers. I'm going to quote some friends from the world of public relations throughout this presentation. So for this, I'm going to quote Carla Visconti. She handles public relations for Hilton Worldwide for Latin America. And she says, in general, when we look at media, whether it be traditional, print, blog, social media, etc., based on their end consumer and the message that helps them the most. We try to make sure that the message is relevant and the audience, to the audience, regardless of the type of media. And also, I'd like to point out that increasingly there is less difference nowadays between trade media, industry media, consumer media, and bloggers. And why is that? Of course, it's because of the internet. Everything is accessible basically to everyone nowadays. So you may be contacted by a travel industry publication or some other industry publication, but you also should keep in mind that what they write about you will be on the internet, it will be online, and the general public can see it too. So how do you find good journalists and bloggers? You can do a lot of different things. There are services you can pay to use, like Cision.com. You can follow and identify social media influencers on social media. You can hire a public relations firm. You can attend journalist conferences, like there's one called TBEX, the Travel Bloggers Exchange. It takes place in the United States and also in Europe and in Asia. And a lot of travel writers and bloggers go there. What I'm going to be talking about today deals a lot with the travel industry and travel writers and bloggers, but this can apply to anyone. So whatever your industry may be, whether you're a different kind of business or work in the travel segment, a lot of this can apply to you. And the same goes for the LGBT market. I'll be using some specific LGBT examples, but a lot of what I'll be mentioning applies to the audience, the general worldwide audience as well. So let's start with bloggers. Aren't they just crazy people who sit alone in their room at midnight in their underwear and post things on their blogs? Yes, sometimes. I can say that as a blogger who sometimes sits in my room at midnight and posts things on my blog in my underwear. But they can also provide a valuable service because they can help you to really target an audience that is important to you. So what you want to do is to determine the value of specific blogs and what they can mean for you. For this, I'm going to quote, I actually have a few different tips here from Christopher Penn. He's a gentleman with a company called Shift Communications. I'm not going to read through everything. Did I just lose the picture? Did I push the wrong button? At any rate, but there are several different things. Oh, okay, let's try this again. Let's see. I love technology. Anyway, All right, we skipped over a couple, but that's okay. But anyway, I can send, if anyone wants to give me their cards afterwards, I'd be happy to email you a copy of my entire presentation where you can go more into detail. So let's skip ahead to what to look for in a blog or a blogger. How do you find great bloggers? So here's some things that some of my friends in the world of public relations say. Carla Visconti at Hilton Worldwide says, the first thing I do is visit the site, that's obvious, look at the content, read some of the posts, get a feel for the blog and audience. Then I look at the social media channels they have and get an idea of the following and engagement levels. So she basically will evaluate based on the content, based on the audience, based on the social media following. All of that is important. And so if you get contacted by a blogger, for example, that wants to cover your service or product or destination, these are some things that you might want to do. Even if you haven't heard of a blog or a website or a specific magazine before, that's not a reason to immediately disqualify it as being worth your time. Here's some other tips. A friend of mine named Veronica Villegas, she handles public relations for IHG, Intercontinental Hotels Group in Latin America, and she's with Creps de Maria, Marketing and Communications. She says that you need to consider who is the journalist or blogger's audience? Does the journalist or blogger have good content and images? If it's high quality, that's obviously better. When was the last day of activity is also important, she points out, because you want someone who has a lot of robust content that is constantly updated. That means there's more interest and they're driving more traffic. And also, no one wants to be listed or written about on a site that looks dated. So is there an active following? Is there engagement? Are people sharing it? You want to see likes and things like that, shares. A couple other things about bloggers, if I can advance this. If not, then never mind. No. See if the tone fits your product or service and how they cover your specific industry or field. Still trying to click here. You can also make sure that the coverage is generally positive, although at the same time you don't want something that's so artificial that it reads like an advertisement. We all can tell when something is fake, when something is not genuine or authentic online. So if a blog reads like all it is one big advertorial, one big advertisement, people won't pay as much attention to it. So you want something that's honest, but not artificial, and has enough positive tone that they'll serve for you. Another important thing to remember is quality is important and can often be more important than quantity. For example, a blogger or a website or a magazine with 3 million readers may sound really great and may sound like a dream audience for you or your product or what you're trying to promote, but if almost none of those 3 million people will ever buy your product or visit your destination or stay in your hotel, then what's the point? So it might be better to reach an audience of just 40,000 or even 5,000 if those are the people that are really motivated and interested in your product or service or destination. So, as in any aspect of doing business, relationships are very important, and the same goes with journalists. You make them happy and they can make you happy. So how do you build relationships with the media? A good way to increase the coverage is to understand what writers want. These are just a few quick notes about what writers want and need and appreciate from you. Availability, for example, if we contact you, that means we think that you'd be a great interview subject or we really want to feature your company or your business. So try to make time for us. Availability, the ability to deal with deadlines. We know that you're pressed for time and you have a lot of business deadlines to deal with, and we do too. So if we can come together and respect each other's deadlines, that's great. Also, story ideas that are attention-getting, news-related, and reader-friendly. They could be hot trends, they could be any of a variety of things. You may have your own ideas, we may be contacting you with ideas. They could be anything from in-depth features and company profiles to something that's called listicles. In case you don't know what a listicle is, it's basically just a list, and these are very hot in media in all different languages now. Here's a couple examples from my own site, latinflyer.com. The top 5 gay travel and vacation destinations in Latin America, and also 22 tips to bring the joy back to air travel, even if you're flying Viva Aerobus. I hope that no one from that airline is here. Anyway, so these are just some examples of things that can really drive traffic and get attention. People like things that are easily accessible, especially if it's online. So now let's do the flip side. How do you keep journalists from annoying you? One way is by not giving them a clicker because they won't be able to use it. Here we go. Okay, some really basic tips. I mean, obviously, we're not all obnoxious, and we all work together, and we want to be able to provide you with the publicity and promotions that you need. But you just need to be polite to us. We'll be polite to you. Respect deadlines, but make sure you get the info that you need from a journalist. If someone contacts you, you've never heard of them before, you've never heard of their website or their magazine, for example, they should provide you with all the information so that you'll feel secure and be able to do more research about who they are. They should have their assignment details, their deadline, links to their past articles, or to the website, especially if it's something that's not very well known. You can be firm but polite and know when to say no. If it's not a good fit, you can say that. If you're really just too busy and you can't meet their deadline, which is in 2 weeks or in 2 days, say that. Say it nicely, but you can say that. It's better not to ignore because you don't know when you might need them in the future. But don't be afraid to say no. So how do you communicate with writers? There are several different ways that you can do that. Obviously, press releases, which you or someone on your staff can write, or a PR agency, or a freelance writer. Post your latest news via social media or on your website. Create your own blog or a microsite that can function for journalists and possibly function for journalists and the general public. And also public speaking and presentations, like I'm doing right now, like a lot of us are doing over the next 2 days here at the LGBT Confex. It's a great way to get your product in front of people. Sponsorship opportunities and partnerships with organizations like LGBT Confex is a great way to get the word out and increase your presence in front of journalists and awareness they're around. So how else can you get our attention? There are a few different things that we love. These are just a few ideas here. We like things like hot trends. We like things, useful information, tips that our readers can really use. We like real news. I've just been speaking with a couple people here today, that just this morning, a new hotel that just opened just this year. Things like that. So if you're new, that makes you newsworthy. Also shareable content, and that means things that people